Hi, Amanda here. Today we are in Locust Light's Apothecary Garden for our first of what will be a monthly Witchy Tip. Every month on the 13th of the month, I'm going to give you a tip about living as a plant witch in today's world. So I thought a lot about this first tip and I was thinking, okay, what is a topic that's relevant to springtime because we focus on living seasonally. It's relevant to springtime and also relevant to what I consider to be very integral to being a plant witch in today's world. And I realized that something I wanted to talk about was being part of a community, or in this case, a community of ecology. And so I thought I'd give you an example of something that I do in my garden that really fosters a sense of community with the natural world. Because to me, part of being a witch is really drawing on the power of the natural world, and a big part of that power is collective energy, it's community, it's ecology, and it's embracing that with love and empathy. And I could understand how people might feel that a garden is maybe at odds with ecology in some way because it's a space that's being maintained, right? You know, it's a space, for me, my garden is a space in which I am completely interfering with the life cycles of the things that are here. I'm planting, I'm weeding, I'm tending, I'm being my human mammal self in this space. And that's true. You know, it's true I'm interfering with these life cycles, but there are ways that I as a human can still continue to make this space habitable for life around me. And so if you'll notice around me, I'm just gonna like do a little 360 here. You see a lot of dead stalks still in the garden. So you can see the tall dead stalks behind me, that's tansy. In the distance you can see nettle. This here is rue. And then this here is anise hyssop. So this is anise hyssop. You can see, well, the new growth is sort of covered by the chickweed actually, so you can't really see it yet. Anise hyssop is a native to the mid-Atlantic. It's a beautiful herb that we use a lot in magic and also medicinally for, you know, a cough or a throat, things like that. Has a really lovely, sweet anise fragrance and flavor. So I do not prune back any of my plants in the fall, which many people who have gardens do. I think they think it looks nicer because we have these dead parts of plants, and it's nicer to prune them back. I don't do that, and one of the main reasons that I don't do that is because a friend of mine who's a naturalist told me that many insects, which we like, we want insects, will lay their eggs in the hollow stems of plants, and then that will be a space for the eggs to survive over the winter to hatch in the spring. And insect life is very important for everything. It's important for us and for our lives. It's important for the garden. It's important for the entire ecosystem. If you're someone who really loves birds, it's important for the birds. Insect and larvae are a very important part of a healthy garden. So I leave my plants in stalks, and I'm gonna see if we can see this nice hollow stem here. I'm gonna break this off. Can we see this hollow stem? So this hollow stem is important because since anise hyssop is a native, it's a plant that we know insects might be more comfortable with laying their larvae in there and overwintering. So usually what I do is, you know, I don't know who these insects are, I don't know what they like, I don't know when they hatch. So what I aim to do in the spring is I'll leave the stalks go until the new growth comes and until it really starts to get warm outside. Many insects, their eggs actually hatch and they develop according to something called degree days, which is really, say if you start on January 1st and you add up the number of degrees that the temperature is. So say January 1st is 32 degrees, then it's 35 degrees, then it's, I don't know, 46 degrees, and you add up those three, you have like 100 and something degree days. So many insects will actually hatch based on the number of degree days, which is really cool. Like their beings just are counting and registering the degree days, and they'll hatch when a certain number of degree days has passed. But like I said, I'm not an entomology expert. I don't know who these insects are. I don't know when they hatch. So what I do is I will leave the stalks up for as long as possible until I can reasonably assume that anyone who's in there might have hatched. And for me, this is one way that I focus on making my garden a space that is welcoming and habitable for many types of beings, because that's important as a person and it's very important for me as a witch. So I'd like to ask you, how in your life do you foster a sense of community around you? What do you do to make your space, whether that's a physical space or just the space around you, what do you do to make your space more welcoming to all sorts of beings, or maybe one specific sort of being? I'd love to hear from you, so drop a note in the comics and let's begin the conversation. Happy April 13th.